there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. All right, we have the principal report. So Mrs.
Yes,
Vicarious.
absolutely. We're excited with our enrollment. We will be adding a couple extra kindergarten students after the break, bringing our enrollment to 899. We are working to enroll new students based on open spots that we have in grade levels, different grade levels. I have this for you. There will be an ad going out in the Naples Daily News. I wanted to ask, it's larger than this. It has our graphs here. I just didn't have a page big enough to print it. But it will advertise our open enrollment. It should be fully functional in January, possibly sooner on our website. We did communicate December on our website, so we're taking a webinar on December 4th with School Mint. I'm going to be involved in, as well as our registrar in our front office, so that we fully understand the capabilities of that process to open, enroll, and to fill, continue to grow our school as we have in the past. So this hopefully, I just wanted your input in terms of, we're really thinking at least a quarter of a page in an ad. We can also do an eighth of a page. Of course, price, there's some differences, or half a page.
How often is it gonna run?
It would run for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Would it be digital too?
Digital too.
Okay.
Yes, and we are looking to do that over this holiday break. And there's a deadline that I would need to get this in, probably today. So we're looking at doing some
What 2 weeks
promotional.
would it run?
That is up to us, but I was thinking over the holiday, people are home. So it would run this week and possibly the first week in December. So,
Should we look at running it also in January when it's actually, because people that
Absolutely.
forget about it, if it's
Yes.
running while during those months, so that people then see it, can go to it.
yes, so it's a prelude to
Okay.
the January,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely,
That's
we
a
can
good
do
idea.
that. So that was, Mr. Steer created that for us.
That's
and
really
it-
nice.
Yeah?
It is with our
I like it.
graphs and everything about our school and our contact and our website and how they would find out about enrolling through our website, so that's, open enrollment.
I like the pictures too. It kind of shows
I'll pass it
a
around.
lot of what we do here, so someone can get an idea. You've got athletics and the music, not just young kids, but older kids, so it's a nice mix. I think it's really nice.
And those
Well
are all
done.
of our pictures, there's no canned pictures, we don't put any of that on our website, it's all our actual students, just
I like it.
are celebrating our schools, so. I'm working on our DOE monthly FTE calculations. We are doing very well in terms of our paperwork with the district. Every month everything is looked at and calculated in terms of our FTE, and we work very closely with Ms. Sandy Tarr, and we have an excellent CPA, Mr. Ken Ruth, and he's wonderful. So we are in great shape with all of our FTE and our finances. Another positive is that our staff and our teachers will be paid the school recognition funds, which the School Advisory Council and the staff voted on in full compliance with the Florida statutes. That will be paid out to the staff before the holiday,
That's great.
Christmas
Perfect
holiday.
timing.
So it is good timing. Wanted to bring that to your attention. Miss Riley is our college advisor, and she's been working with each and every single senior, and now she's working her way down, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, on the importance of future plans, and we are already seeing scholarships coming in for our seniors, and I will have a report for you next month.
That was actually
regarding-
in my notes, sorry to interrupt, it was in
Oh.
my notes today to ask about getting an update on scholarships and
Oh,
seniors,
good,
so
good.
you're
Yes.
you're on top
Well,
of it.
I definitely know that they're coming in,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
great.
don't have the totals as of today. I wanna make sure I can get a cumulative look at that. Interims will go home today for students C- or below, and we are adjusting some math schedules just to ensure that we have the added support in place for math. We have, as you may have seen when you walked in, we have a full house of tours happening every Friday. We've promoted that, our tour schedule on Facebook. There's a Sign Up Genius that's connected. It's been boosted on Facebook. It's had approximately 4,000 people have seen the post, and it's friends of friends who like our Facebook page, and it's their friends. So it's really expanding,
That's great.
and we're very excited about that, promoting that. I think I'm going to boost some other things, you know, I'm just going on myself and boosting posts, just a very nominal cost to that. Personally, I'm just doing that to see what else we can promote regarding our school. There's a great atmosphere here of positivity, the families and the feedback, the communication, you know, just really being very clear and concise with our communication is a goal, so that parents know and understand why we do things. Especially around our athletics, just really making sure we have all of our paperwork in place and everything in compliance, and communicating our schedules and our practices, all of that. You know, people are very busy. We want to make sure we clearly communicate what's happening for our students. Very exciting, I think. We're going to be revisiting under safety and security, revisiting all of our exterior doors. We're in great shape. The police, the Naples Police Department, and the Collier County Sheriffs have told us everything looks really good, but we want to fortify it a little bit more, and we have a grant called the Safe Schools Grant, and we have some funds this year of approximately $31,200 to look at reinforcing, maybe with a bar in the middle of our doors, so that they don't open or they can't be, just further reinforcing them. Awesome. So that's something we're going to be looking at as well. Hello.
We're just we waited a little bit, but we're just in the principal report, so you didn't miss too much.
And we're looking to put an entrance safety measure at the front entrance, that they, with a buzz-in system as appropriate. We're looking at bids right now for things like that, so I just wanted to mention that to you all. There is,
do you feel like that 31,000 will cover majority of
well,
it?
so right now, 31,000 seems a little low, but we will, in a year, we're part of another part of this grant, where we identified fencing as well. So this money kind of needs to be spent, it's time sensitive. So we thought we would just start with the exterior, and then we could possibly have some additional funds that have been allocated towards our school for fencing. So should that become, it is a priority currently, but we have some hurdles to jump before we get there. But so we're trying to line up things to continue to keep our
So
school
the
safe.
buzz-in system, they wouldn't even get into the lobby
Correct.
at all? Okay.
Correct, unless they show their ID and announce themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
Just the way they do it at the, yeah.
And overall, my reflection is last night was a pure example of the excitement and the energy that is behind Mason Classical Academy. The parents came out in droves. I mean, we had over 600 people here, and 30 that came and signed up at the door. So that was really exciting. 30 families signed up at the door. So we had 2 hamburgers left. So I think
Good planning.
good
Yeah.
budgeting,
Yeah.
good budgeting. No potato salad left, which is good. You never want to keep that over Thanksgiving break anyway. But truly a great atmosphere, a great night, and super night for kids. So I appreciate everybody's support, and the fall fun fair was exactly that fun. So that's my report. Any questions?
Any questions?
Suggestions? This was an ad that we will be taking out now and again in January as recommended by the board. Mr. Wilcomb was giving me his thoughts on that. It's larger than this. I just didn't have the correct size paper. It has our graphs with our academic achievement on the bottom, and really shows our students doing what they love: music, art, athletics, and of course classroom pictures.
I just want to say thanks for all the staff who put on the fun fair last night. It was outstanding. I kind of was incognito with my ball cap. You didn't even know it was me standing
At
next to you.
first,
You're
yeah.
like, oh, is that weird? No. But I just, talked to some people I've never met before, some new families, and just asking. And it's funny, they didn't know who I was either. So it's kind of just asking how their experience has been so far. And it was so inspiring just to hear from a lot of these new families that say, we love it. Or I'll ask, how are the kids doing? They love it, and so hearing that last night, I think it was kind of needed, with just the last several months have been difficult. So just know people are extremely happy, and so thank you staff for putting this on, because it was a tremendous turnout, tremendous event. I did have one question though, I don't know if you looked at the numbers, was it more of a moneymaker to do the raffle for the baskets or the silent auction?
We are comparing that.
Okay, cause I was like, I
Yes.
wonder how it, you
We're
know.
hoping to get that information
Yeah.
soon. Yeah, I was curious too.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, last year it was raining, so everybody was in the cafeteria.
Yes.
So it kind of, you had a captured audience.
You did,
Right.
So, you know, that,
there were some different.
Sure.
we should have called for rain at the hotel.
Yeah.
Then we
We
could have
could have
done apples to apples. You know,
Yes.
I had a lot of parents coming up to me just grateful for the communication, grateful for, the effort of the staff that was there last night. Did you, I mean, all of that was voluntarily, coordinated, just anybody who wanted to participate. We had over 30 staff members. I got a lot of feedback on the pancake breakfast. There was a parent, she talked to me for about 30 minutes and how excited her daughter was. It was the highlight of her year. It was
Aw.
fantastic for this mom and this family. And I just thought, you know, that's great to hear. It goes hand in hand, hard work. There is some reward in that. And certainly to continue to allow her to work very hard in the classroom, but also bring along 2 to 3 other students who are also going to make those A's. I heard from another little girl who was going to make those A's,
Right.
and she has straight A's where she didn't before. So that really spills back over into the classroom, and it builds. So we're hoping to have a lot more kids.
I
this
think
time.
that was a huge success, and I'm hearing the same thing. It's kind of a self-motivator for the kids that that didn't get to go, that maybe missed it, and are working harder to get those straight A's. So I think it's great. The other question I had for you on, who's the new liaison with the district that we're working with?
So Collier County Public Schools
Yeah.
has provided us Dr. Elizabeth Alves is
Okay.
her name. I've not met her. Dr. Elizabeth Alves, in the meantime, is our contact.
And has that been going well as far as communication? I mean, cause really the job has been kind of a revolving door with people that are new and don't know the job, and then they
Right.
stay and then they leave. I mean,
Right.
it's 4 in the last 5 years, so.
It's been a big revolving door, and she is helpful. I know she probably has other jobs that she does.
Yeah.
This is sort of an aside for her, but she has been receptive to anything that I've asked her
Oh,
to
good.
help me on. But I haven't met her before, and you know, there's not the district does not provide regular communication. The district sparses things out. I find that it's in pieces, where I feel like it could be a little bit more coordinated in terms of communication. That would be more helpful.
Okay.
That would just be my feedback to the board in terms of how the district communicates with us.
Is she just interim right now, or is she going to be the one taking over this job?
I understand there's going to be somebody else
Oh, okay,
that they're looking to hire in December.
okay.
That was the communication I received about that, last month, the end of last month.
Okay. Yeah, cause my understanding, in case everyone didn't know, the previous one, Judith Delgado, gave her notice of resignation on October 25th and resigned on the 30th and left Collier County, so just kind of interesting.
It kind of caught all of us off guard.
Yes. for sure.
It wasn't announced, it wasn't publicly emailed to us that we would have a change. It was sort of after the fact, after the change, that we were notified that somebody would be in the interim. I think it was on the board minute or board packet under personnel, her leaving. That's how I found out about it, ahead of time by looking at the personnel list. And then subsequent days to that, we received word that there would be a new person, so it didn't seem like we were a priority to know. I didn't feel like I was a priority to know who would be in charge from the district.
Well, thank you. Anyone else have questions, comments? Okay.
Nope.
Excellent. All right, we're gonna move on to the audit update. Is that,
Yes, so the company is completing the audit and should have the completion by the end of next week. So
okay,
the end of November is when they will have the independent audit complete. I have not, I don't have anything to share with you, except for a conversation that I had that it would be completed. I don't have any updates for
Right.
you. And I apologize, I was hoping I would have
Right.
had that today for sure. And Mr. Moore, our compliance officer, is away for the holidays, so he would be sharing this with you today, but the end of November.
Okay.
So maybe we'll be coming back in December, maybe having another meeting.
yeah,
that's why I was hoping to share that with you
Right.
today, I apologize.
No, that's okay. And maybe sending Dr. Alves just like an update to say it's
Yeah.
coming at the end of November, that they're just finalizing it, that way
Okay.
they're aware. You know, cause it said within a reasonable time, and because we had to make some changes, I mean, I think it's definitely still within reasonable time, but just to keep them informed. That's just my recommendation.
Okay, yes, I will do.
Okay, excellent. All right, the new business today is the attorney escrow. Again, we're here to, discuss moving some more dollars over to the Rock Law Firm. As you all are aware, the lawsuit was filed. I got an update yesterday, the summons has been issued. I should get an email hopefully sometime today that it's been served officially, so. So anyway, with that said, and with other information, I think it's important that we put additional funds into the Rock Law Firm, in light of information we continue to get really on a daily basis, so. I don't know if anyone wants to.
Do you have a
make
suggestion on an amount?
I mean, personally, I would say about 200,000. I mean,
Mhm.
we did do 100, it's a big chunk, but, I mean, that's my recommendation. If it seems too high, then all ears, so.
My only thought on this is that, I'd be interested to see kind of where the billing is so far. I thought the complaint was good, it was good, but it wasn't very substantial. It didn't, it shouldn't have taken too many hours. But I think if we need to make sure that we have, funds already secured in case anything happens in the future, I definitely would agree with putting additional funds in.
Just not that much, maybe.
I mean, I wouldn't even have a problem with that number because if something does happen and we need to be able to fight a fight, then yes, you could certainly be there. I'm just hoping that we haven't come anywhere close to using what we've already put in with them. I
Right.
mean, anywhere even close, because I know there's a lot of due diligence that it takes to get up to speed with a case like this, and you can't just file a lawsuit, you have to learn all the background information.
Mhm.
But we're at the very early stages. But I do think if something were to happen and we have to be here for the long haul, things can accrue over time, and we need to be able to defend or support ourselves. And an escrow is just that, it's money that's held in escrow, so putting a little bit extra there doesn't mean that if everything goes great, we can't get it back.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with putting a larger amount. I would be interested to see where the billings are to date, just so we can make sure that it's not just being viewed as a free ticket here either. But I'm okay with putting the money together, because we have to, as we said in the last meeting, we have to be able to support our school if something inappropriate is done.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion to take a look at the billing thus far, just to know where we stand
Mhm.
and the work that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a good point.
Should we designate someone to do that, or?
I can request it from them, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
You speak their language.
I did speak to them also about being more proactive, and as I said, one of my suggestions was more in not necessarily even, I know the whole damages are going against the district is a very long, drawn out battle, and there's a lot that comes into that. I mainly looking at, I brought up, and then they wanted to act more in a reactive rather than a proactive kind of stance. My main point was not even necessarily to be proactive in terms of just going out and suing the district. It's seeking a determination on whether any actions have been happening so far and whether they are breaches or not. So it's not even necessarily as aggressive or us versus them. It's like, let's at least look at this from an honest, objective eye, because I believe if we wait, we might not get that. The problem at acting in a reactive fashion, I see a lot of times people are like, you know, everybody gets upset, they can't believe it happened, but next thing you know, the school shut down or somebody else is in control and the damage is already done. So, it's just getting us in front of an honest arbiter. I brought this up and they actually thought that, you know, some of the things that they've alleged are breaches. I don't necessarily think they are breaches. Let's at least ask the court, are these breaches? And have them make a determination. And if there is to be a future action on that, I believe that we'd hopefully be with a more, treat on a more level playing field. Hopefully they would at least make sure whatever actions they're taking has a legal backing instead of just taking a position because they know they're the last arbiter and there's nobody else to go to. The attorneys mentioned that this, if something did happen, it should be stayed until it goes into an administrative type hearing on an appeal. I wasn't exactly sure how that would work and I would just be a little bit concerned. So I need to follow up with them. I don't know if anybody else has ever spoke to them or heard any update on that. But my thought being, like I said, is at least let's get some of these issues in front of the court. And they did agree that these were probably pretty clean-cut issues that that they would have a valid basis to ask the court for determination on these issues. So I did bring this up to them and we kind of tentatively had some approval to follow up on this, but maybe we should see if the board wants to actually approve taking such legal action and trying to do so as quickly as possible because time may be of the essence here. And because that would be my suggestion here, at least see, and then we could see where things go from there. But the main thing is I just want to make sure we have an honest shot here and we're treated fairly.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go
No, I was gonna say, you know, I mean, if you wouldn't mind on behalf of the board, just like you said, he speaks their language, just to push that issue, perhaps get something, have the attorneys document something to the district too, because they haven't sent any letters yet. I think that's something that's missing, and put them on the spot. I mean,
Meaning the district hasn't sent me follow-up letters.
well, the district hasn't sent anything, but our new firm hasn't sent
Right.
anything either.
Right.
So it's just kind of hanging out there, and we kind of know what's out there. So I would ask that on behalf of the board, if you wouldn't mind reaching out on, if there's consensus, if you can kind of push the attorneys to do a little bit more on offense there. 'Cause I don't know how everyone else feels.
I agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Strongly agree with that.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that, and when you mentioned it at the last board meeting, and I followed up with my conversations with them, and one of the things I said, I strongly support looking into some type of declaratory action. I think it's a very good route to take, and my feeling is that we should be moving forward with that, or instructing them to move forward along those lines, as soon as possible.
It's just interesting because if you recall, over a month ago, we got that Fox sent that letter saying, I'm gonna send a letter with these concerns, never happened. Then the district makes up that special meeting last Tuesday. I don't know if you've seen Fishbane's comments, but the whole meeting was a special meeting to approve the marijuana policy, and that lasted less than a minute, and then it was no board comments, okay, the attorney has a report. So the meeting was really called so that Fishbane could give a report and then he claims that we're violating the settlement agreement and that they're gonna send a letter. But gave no evidence. He threw out First Amendment violations. Again, no evidence, and that was a week ago Tuesday, still no letter, which is it's a little troubling. Like, what are they waiting for, Are they gearing up, doing their research, just like the invoices show?
Did they have a written report or was it just
That was him.
No written,
Verbal.
no attachment?
Verbal.
None of his stuff is ever attached.
Yeah,
So we didn't even know it was gonna be about MCA.
and that's why he
This
made
goes
the-
back to the same thing with the settlement agreement, I'm sorry, but is
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, they're not
How-
communicating those
I mean-
concerns to us.
well, not only that, how is that a breach? I don't think the settlement agreement said anything about First Amendment rights. Now, if they're saying that there was a violation of First Amendment rights, that's another issue to maybe that they could bring up through the normal channels, but that's not a breach of the settlement
Correct.
agreement. So a lot of the things I've seen them mention, I don't think were ever referenced in the settlement agreement, so I don't see how those are breaches, and that's my point on a declaratory action, how you're gonna use this as a basis to say we breached the agreement, but they weren't contained in the agreement. So if you want to raise that issue, start that over from the beginning and raise that through the normal channels and address that just like you would any other school, not to now come up with any argument or any biased objection and use that as a basis to object to the settlement agreement. That's my point, is that these things being brought up and addressed aren't what, the fact that Principal Hall, or Mr. Hall is still at the school. He's not the principal, it wasn't directly addressed in the settlement agreement, so that's not a breach. They may not like that, and they might wanna take whatever action, but that's not a breach of the agreement. And there's a few other examples, I'm just blanking right now, but that weren't contained, so how are those breaches of this agreement? And that's what and anything that was contained in the agreement is tenuous at best, so.
Right.
But the concerns that they're bringing up, they're getting from parents, which is a problem in itself because it's a violation of number 10. But if you look at the settlement agreement, the items that is part of the corrective action plan include that we'll have the committees, the SAC, grievance, finance, and audit. Check, we have
Right.
those. Mason will attach documents in advance to agendas. Check, we do that. The council for Mason will provide training for all staff. All that training has been done. Check. New governing board members will affirm that they will adhere to Mason's charter and policies. We did a resolution, that's been done. Communication from the governing board to parent community will be clarified from the governing board or from individual board members. That's always been done, but anyway, it's done. All the committees fully constituted and functioning by October 15th, that happened. And the board shall be increased from 3 to 5, that happened, and the staggered terms happened. So, and Mason will hire a new principal, that happened. So again, to your point, where's the violations?
And you know, we can look into even further issues like whether we're being treated fairly, how much we're incurring in damages and everything because of the fact that we aren't, but you know, that's something maybe for another day. But you just went through the list. I mean, the things that they're bringing up aren't on that list. And I think even Coleman mentioned in one of his previous letters that, you know, you throwing in all these extra points that you want to address, that's not how the law works. If it was an integral part of the settlement, it was in the agreement. I mean, you can't now all of a sudden say, oh, it was inferred that you were going to do this, or everybody knew the intent. That's not what it is. I mean, this was a long, drawn-out mediation. The points that were agreed upon were put into the agreement, and that's what the agreement is. So to bring up these other things as violations, I just don't understand how that's happening. And that's why I think if any court were to look at this, they could say that, no, those aren't breaches of this agreement. If you want to allege something else, okay, go through this channel and start this back over. But that's where I'm a little bit concerned that if we just wait until afterwards, if they can make a completely baseless, they don't have to have any basis to revoke the charter according to them if they go and vote for it. And then the damage is done at that point. And where does that leave us? And then to go back and fight to win afterwards, how long does the legal process take, and where is the school left? I mean, the damage has already been done to a certain extent in the past to the school as it is, and people only get part of the story. So if the issue is, oh, they revoked if there was a vote to revoke the charter, the general public is going to view us as wrongdoers without actually even seeing what the facts are. And I think, like you said, with going through those points, it's very clear that those aren't the issues that they're addressing. The whole, once again, about the First Amendment, it doesn't say anything about First Amendment right there.
Right.
And so we can debate whether that is an issue or not, but that's not a breach of the settlement agreement.
Well, and frankly, if they follow the contract with MCA, that is a separate issue. They would need to put in writing, here's the concerns, but if they're not redirecting these, cause they're coming from parents.
And that's my point. If you want to then go through the First Amendment violation, then you send a letter that, you know, this is a completely separate issue. We can view this as a violation, and what's your response? And then wait for our response. Not just unilaterally, we think you've breached the agreement because of this, so now we're gonna revoke your charter. That's not the process.
Right.
I just think from the very beginning, it's now very obvious that it's not really concerns about breaching a contract or breaching an agreement. That's all just trying to dig up dirt, because what they've said from the very beginning is, we don't like you, we don't like the way you do things, and we want to unlawfully eliminate you so that we can do a job the way we want it done. And, I mean, that's the bottom line here.
Mhm.
That's the way it's been consistently through the whole thing. So I think getting out ahead of this and getting the audience of someone legally who can declare
Mm-hmm.
that we are not in breach is an excellent thing to do. I think that's very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
You mentioned in one of Michael Coleman's responses, well, on the August 16th response from the Coleman Law Firm to Mr. Fox from his first accusatory letter of breaching the settlement agreement, he closes the response with, "Your letter is a perfect example of the district's continuing violation of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. If the district had any interest in working with MCA, why didn't Ms. Patton or the director of charter schools at the district call or email Mrs. Lichter about the issues raised in your letter? It is MCA's position that the best interests of the MCA students would be better served if MCA did not have to continually respond to the types of unfounded allegations and tactics by the district." So, I mean, just right there, way back in August, this is a perfect example of why we need to move to, I think, to some type of declaratory action immediately.
And maybe even the harassment issue, I mean, that's something that I said, I mean, this is harassment, you know, it's just constant. I mean, just even calling that special meeting last week is another way to harass the school. And people are getting, it's not just us sitting around this table that are tired of it. I mean, a lot of families are fed up. Like, when can we just enjoy our school and be left alone? I mean, that's frankly what we've been asking for a long time.
Mhm.
And like you said about the different treatment, are any other schools being treated like this? Not even close.
No.
I mean, I don't think any in the state or in the country are treated like this, so.
So, I guess we have consensus for
I think we have
Mr. Wolcombe
consensus
to,
to take some action with our,
I'll call them today.
and
Okay.
get on that. Do we want to move forward and put at least an additional retainer, or do you wanna wait until after we've reviewed invoices and?
Like Mr. Wilcom said, I think, it's an escrow account. It's not a commitment of the funds to the firm.
Right.
It's being held there just in case. I
Mhm.
think that's wise.
If the billing was out of line for whatever reason, we would have an ability to that money's already spent. The fact if we commit additional money right now isn't going to change what they spend going forward. So as long as we can review that, make sure that's in line, as you were just saying, we can always ask for that back if there is something. But just, who knows? There's another board meeting probably coming up here in a couple weeks with the school board. I don't want to put anything past them. I think we should probably get it ready. So I would move to approve putting an additional 200,000 in.
Is there a second on
I
that?
second.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of adding 200,000 to the attorney escrow state so by saying aye.
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 Opposed, passes unanimously. All right, the next item up, we have board comments. Any-
I'd like to actually make
Yeah.
another motion is, can we move to approve attorney action if anything happens to defend the school and this board, being that if I don't wanna get caught in a legal issue where they have money, but they have no ability to take direction from us. So I would like to pre-authorize that if they, if something has happened with the charter, that they are pre-authorized to do everything within their power to defend the school.
I would second that.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All right, so there's a motion to pre-authorize the law firm to take any necessary action, to protect the school. There's a
And the
second,
board.
and the board. And there's a second, no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, any board comments today?
Do we, excuse me,
Yeah.
do we also need to, I know that we have established consensus for Mr. Wilcom to go and have the discussion about the declaratory action with the law firm, but should we go ahead and authorize, them to expedite that process and, send the letter now?
I mean, what I would like to tell them is that we would like to not just look into it, that's what we would like to do. You know,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, at this point, they're coming in later
consensus
to
of
the
the board's
situation, I don't know if they really understand I mean, they do, but the urgency and the damage that will be caused by acting in a reactive fashion, you know?
And I think it'll be helpful that when you go to them today, that this was decided by the board, not just, hey, I have an idea as a board member.
It's
Right.
not just looking into it,
Right.
we need to take the action.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. And then the other thing, just on this legal stuff, you know, now that a lawsuit has been filed, there will be, time to go meet in the shade, essentially, and that would require a court reporter. The attorneys will advise us on that if they do need to meet with all of us at the same time. That is not a sunshine meeting. There would be a court reporter to document what's, said. But at this time, they haven't scheduled anything like that, but just to give you notice that that is really the only time we can go into a shade meeting.
Is
So-
that released?
It's
Right.
released
After.
after the
Yeah.
litigation.
Mhm. So just wanted to give you a heads up, so.
Okay.
Alright, now we can move to board comments. Anyone have anything today? Ms. Miller, Mary Rich?
I've just been thinking that going into Thanksgiving, I really hope that our entire community, that all our families are giving thanks for what has been accomplished in this miraculous school over the last 5 years, and realizing that, that it has been a hard-won battle every step of the way to get to where we are. And when we were finally at the point of being able to reap the rewards for the school, to be able to expand the school and to better the experience for our students after having become this established, we've been robbed of the opportunity. We've been robbed of the opportunity to take the steps that we were planning to take over the summer to look at making the school much better. And we've had to allocate funds in places that we never wanted to and never should have. So I think that now that the truth is finally being exposed in our community, and what the truth is behind this long-standing campaign to attack our leadership and the vengeful lies and destruction for profit on the other side, I hope that now that that's being exposed, that we can really get people in our community to stand with us and not be neutral anymore. There've been a lot of families who've been standing by saying, I don't know, I'm not really that up to speed on things, and I like people on both sides, and, I don't know, things seem to be fine, and I guess there's gonna be a classical school no matter what. But
It doesn't
people need
happen
to
by
be aware.
accident, it doesn't happen by chance that, oh, it's just, anybody can come in and run the school and all be the same, then why are none of the others
Let me
like
ask
that?
you this too,
Yeah.
what is their record?
Right,
These people are standing up and beating their chests and saying, we can do a better job, I know how to do it better. Well, some
and
of them
why
are
are
not
there
even
no
running
other
their
schools
families
that are
very
even
well.
close,
But when you're standing up and saying, we can do it better, well, what proof do you have? What other BCSI school has been run better than this or as well? What other school in Collier County has been run as well as this or as well? What record do they have to stand up and say, we can do it better? So I really hope that
and we're not in the
people-
richest area of the town, if anything, the schools in this zone are probably at the closest to the bottom.
Our diversity
it's-
has increased
it-
year over year
diversity
as
is
our
high.
success has
Our-
completely
And we
overwhelmed
still,
everybody
it's not
else.
like it's a private school where everybody's private paying, we come across all classes, races, and we still excel, and like I said, that doesn't happen, that's what kinda bugs me whenever somebody just says, oh yeah, well, we just wanna replace them, or we're just gonna do it all the same. It doesn't happen by accident. A company doesn't become successful by accident. It doesn't get lucky like that. It comes from hard work and running things a certain way and having good people, but even finding good people is hard. You know, people you don't just bring into a good school and everybody is gonna be a great employee. It takes hard work to find good people, to train good people, to put in the right systems in place, have the right leadership so those people want to be at the school.
And decisions, day in and day out, that are hard decisions to make to maintain mission focus and to make sure that everyone in their roles is maintaining that mission focus.
We don't have
That's
the
hard
most
to do.
experienced teachers in town. I mean, like I said, it doesn't happen by chance. It's, so.
And it hasn't happened because somebody wanted power. It hasn't happened because people wanted money. It's happened out of love, of virtue and excellence, and a pure desire for the best for our students. And it's repulsive to see how much this parallels what's going on in Washington to me right now. Because there are people saying, we want to do it differently and we can do it much better. Well, you know what? There's a lawful process for electing a president. There's a lawful process that we have, established our Constitution, and these are the rules we follow. And there's a big group of people saying, we just want to take you out because we just don't like you, we hate you. And that's very reminiscent of what's going on in this town. And I really
And
hope
let's
people
look at
stand up
everything
and
you've
say,
ever done since your inception and see if we can find some needle in the haystack to bury you on. And I don't think anybody wants to have somebody go through everything they've ever done since they were born, and let's see if I can find something you did when you were in high school and now smear it all over the paper and talk about how bad you are. It's like.
That would be an easy job with me.
So anyway, I just wanted to say I'm so thankful for all the blessings that this school has been able to offer the community and the children of this school. And I think we all need to really take stock of everything we have to be grateful for as Americans, and of really blessed community members of this school. And I hope that people will stand up and stand with us and say enough is enough. If there were pure motives on the other side to have best education and increased opportunity for children here, I've said this many times. Why don't they open a school and actually have a second opportunity and do things the way they want to do them? Fine, that's fine. But it is very clear now, it's proven that the motives are to oust us and take over what we have established.
Because given the opportunity, that would be the natural progression. If it wouldn't have had the smear campaigns trying to destroy it, what would happen is not trying to take down this school, it would have multiple schools continue to pop up. And perhaps that's what the real threat is because if multiple schools similar to this pop up and then compete with the public schools, maybe people aren't gonna wanna go to the public schools anymore. That could be what the real threat is, to be honest, in my opinion.
Well, back in Colorado, when they started this classical charter movement, well before it came to Florida, because we were actually the first charter classical in the entire state. And what happened was one started up with great success, and then other communities close by are saying, we want that. They didn't go tear down Ridgeview. They built up Liberty Common, which is one of the top schools in Colorado, and Vanguard, and the list goes on and on and on. No one's tearing down the other schools. They're just creating more opportunities in neighboring communities so that more kids could have this. And the 7 of the top 10 schools every year in Colorado, US News World Report, are all classical liberal arts schools. I mean, every year, it's like most of the top 10. So, and what's been done here is just disgusting and awful and sad, but.
I got a call yesterday from someone from Land's End, and they said, I just wanted to tell you again, this is the time when people are kind of gearing up for the fall, for the next school year, and new schools are kind of getting things set up for their uniform programs and deciding if they want a uniform program or just a dress code and la la la. And she said, I can't tell you how many times Mason Classical Academy comes up all over the country. She said, people come and they say, you all do this school, don't you? We want to be like them. We want to have the exact same plaid or something really close, and we want to make sure we have those options for the kids. It looks so successful, they look so professional, and look at what they're doing there. We love that. That's what we want to be like.
A lot of the BCSI schools adopted what we did with the Monday through Thursday, everyday uniform, Friday dress day. A lot of them adopted that we do here. But
and when I explained that, we're going through a tough time right now, they couldn't believe it. I said, what in the world? would someone wanna tear you down for, you know?
And that's why I don't wanna be reactive and wait, because what I feel like happens too often at the local, state, and federal level is those things happen, everybody is appalled for a few days, and then people go on about their lives, and they say, I can't believe that happened, that's so sad. But next thing you know, one by one, our pillars are taken down. And that's what, so just to think that, oh, well, this can't happen, it happens all the time. And then the voices are being removed, and to see it happen at such a small level, at like even at one little county, one little school, it's
Well, it's
it's
one
pretty
little
scary.
county that happens to be the main fundraising county for Hillsdale College, by the way. So,
Yeah.
In the nation.
Yeah,
yes.
that's why they're here every year doing fundraising events.
Well, it's funny you say that too, with the, reacting and the damage already done. When we attended the Florida Charter School Conference, the last day when they brought in Governor DeSantis and all that, before that, other folks from the Florida Charter School Alliance, I think it was, got up and they're like, oh, we were appalled at what happened in Broward or Dade, whatever, where they didn't have a resource officer for 2 days, and then the school board voted, I think unanimously, to terminate the school.
Immediately.
And they're like, oh, we were appalled, but they didn't do anything about it. They didn't say, hey, what are you doing? They didn't have a resource, they had a contract with the city to provide a resource officer, that guy didn't show. And then nothing happened, but you're gonna close down the school?
In the context of that conversation at that conference, surely there were people there that are very aware of what's going on with Mason. And I'm
Right.
sure they stood up and said something about the parallel there and that we can't allow that to happen again here. Is that,
No,
is that what
nobody
you're
said
saying?
that.
Yeah.
Go on.
I try not to talk too often, but
You should talk more often.
Yeah.
We like hearing from you.
one of the things that we don't realize is, as I have 2 kids coming up, and I work a lot with children, and one of the scariest things I realize out there when I talk to kids is that we're building a society of lazy. Kids that believe everything is owed to them, kids that believe they don't have to work for what they have, they're entitled. And one of the things I really, really like about Mason is that it doesn't tolerate that, and it teaches the opposite. And what I'm shocked about the most is it's the parents, the ones that should be developing the positive in their children, is doing the opposite. And not only that, they're giving their children the voice to do the opposite. I'm gonna shock to tell you that in my time, a lot of those kids end up in reform schools, in prisons, in failed lives, not because they're not gifted or smart or have opportunities, but because they weren't taught these values.
And from
And-
powerful and affluent families.
Right, and these values that are important to develop them. I have friends that that are in the public school, and had a conversation the other day, and she was like, this child is really struggling, and I feel so bad about him because a parent is deported and it's a single mom household. And I looked at her and I said, hello, you're feeling sorry for parents, I believe, that enable. My kids, I have to work hard and make decisions to have them become good citizens. One of the blessings of Mason is that it gives you the opportunity to put them in a place that teaches them to become good citizens, and it's free. So I'm not paying $8,000 to $10,000 per child like I used to for private school, but I'm getting a better education, more discipline, more structure, and they're learning a lot more. So when I go somewhere with my kids, everybody asks, where they go? What school is that? Your kids are so well behaved. Well, one of the things I was taught when I was growing up is that I respect the uniform that I'm wearing, because not only am I representing myself, I'm representing my teachers, the staff at the school, and I'm representing a community. So when we go anywhere, I say, make sure your shirt is tucked in, is your tie on properly? Hold your head up high, shoulders back. How are you behaving? And that I love that everywhere I go and I see a family and I see the uniform, I can smile and feel confident that my kids go to a school that we can be proud of. I no longer go to a school where, even though it's a private school with some of the elite families, they're like, oh, those kids are rotten. You know, I am proud of the fact that we're a part of the Mason family. And I think one of the things with a lot of families is that they are fearful. They're fearful to speak up because they feel like it's a David and Goliath syndrome. They're Goliath and we're David. But what did David use? 5 stones and only 1 required. And I believe that there is power if we are joined together as one in one voice to declare that we're going to protect our children. Because if there was an issue that would affect our children, it would have shown itself. And as the more I learn, the more appalled I am to think that we're in a society where the positions that you hold is to protect our children, and you're trying everything to take away what's good and right for our children. And I would just encourage that our parents that are struggling with speaking up because they're afraid of retribution, to just be bold and stand up for your child. This is your opportunity to speak for your child. This is your opportunity to demonstrate to your children, this is what you do in times of crisis or in times of unfairness.
And especially when you believe in something.
Yes.
And so this actually is a good segue to something we've been discussing
Yes,
about
yes.
doing a town hall, and I don't know if you wanted to.
No, I approached you, Ms.
Yeah.
Lichter, about what you just said is extremely true. And when you can provide time and space for people to come together, which is what I'd like to do, if the board is okay with it, to have a town hall soon after we get back after Thanksgiving, we have some new families, new faces, to bring everybody back together about our mission and why we're here and what we do for kids and our students. And I think you would be a great, anybody here on our board would be great to tell the story of who we are and why we're standing for ourselves here. I think that's really powerful. And I'd like to really go back to why we're here. We're here for the kids. We are here for the kids. The public school system is here for the kids. The public school system is coming after needles and haystacks to get around the real success of the school, and the success of the school is the kids. And they're trying to usurp the fact that we are doing great things for kids, and kids are excelling and using petty, simple, little things that are of no significance because the school is doing so well. And I really believe that we need to come back together as a family and really show our unity and our strength and a call to action for what's right, to stand up for rights. Because when you feel like you're the Lone Ranger, it's harder to stand firm. But when you know there's a community of support behind you, then it makes it better for the whole if we do that. So I'd like to do something the week we come back from Thanksgiving.
Would it be a good idea to get the notice out soon about that, so that people who are timid to stand up and ask a question at a microphone, or that have that kind of shyness, if we could allow people to submit questions in advance to be addressed, maybe that
Yes.
would be a good way for us to let people think about what they'd like to ask and think about what they'd like to say, and then submit it so that we can get it as many viewpoints as possible. I think that would help.
That's a great idea.
We can do that in today's communication
Great.
process.
Okay.
I personally have benefited in my family. Sorry. We have had some things that have happened, and that my husband hasn't been able to live in the home with us. And I am so blessed to be a part of this school. My son is disciplined by me, and I know I love him, and everything I do is good for him. But I have got his teachers, his principals, the people in the cafeteria. They all know him. They are all helping me to guide this boy to build his character. He is a good boy, but he needs this school. He needs people like this in his life to help guide him and direct him. He's gonna leave this place such an amazing, outstanding citizen, and I'm so proud to be here. Thank you for allowing us.
Thank you. So we'll get that in the Paladin Press then,
Yes.
that we're gonna have this and that people can submit questions and, we'll get the ball rolling on that.
I have one more comment that I
Yeah.
wanted to make. You know, we've been talking about what a wonderful community this is with the teachers, the faculty and administration, and the parents and the principals and, the board. I think it's wonderful, you know, hearing from my little boy, who's in class, your little boy. It's such a neat thing to hear them talking and to hear their off the cuff, you know, experiences and stories and the virtue that they are developing in themselves and in their peer group is so beautiful to see. You know, it's wonderful to hear them say, you know, well, I told so-and-so he could do it. And, you know, sometimes he doesn't make the best decision and he's, you know, blah, 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 you know, but he's still my friend because I love him, you know, and he loves me too as a friend, even though blah, 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 you know, and I hear these great things. And I think that's another nice aspect of the pancake breakfast, to segue there. But I think, you know, we all as parents and faculty and as a school are always kind of the people up here saying, these are the virtues, now do this. But it's a nice thing for the kids to have their little peer pressure saying, I wanna go to the pancake breakfast, you know, I wanna do that, I'm gonna get there.
You
And
always
it's their
wanna
own
strive to
internal
be
drive
the
to do
higher,
that.
like, that's just natural for the human nature to wanna be like the better in the group. So if we're all trying to be better, there's nothing that's gonna happen except for everyone rises.
Everybody will do better.
Yeah. So
And if
it's
the bar is
amazing
set
to
low and
encourage
there's no
that.
incentive to excel, then everybody stays at the bottom.
Mhm.
I know I've heard someone make a complaint about whether that's wasting class time and how Mason isn't supposed to waste class time. Well, I don't view that as that. This is not just saying everybody gets a medal. This is not just this is saying the school focuses on hard work, discipline, and excelling. And if you did that and you put in the work to do that, yes, you should be rewarded. This, like I said, it's not today's society, it's everybody gets the medal. And this is the opposite. And I think that you do need to reward excellence because that's what gets people to do better. That's what gets people to try harder. My son has certain troubles with certain things. He's not quite as focused as my daughter. My daughter's like on top of everything. She never has misses anything. But my son, but
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
but you know but there was a bar that was set, and he got there. He did there, and if he was allowed to stay down here and allowed to perform at that level, that's what he would have done.
That's what they
But
would.
then if he keeps on getting pushed and say, no, that's not acceptable, you get a demerit, or you're not gonna get a good grade, I don't care if you get half of them wrong because you didn't finish that sheet. I could have said that that's too much work for him to do. He's not quite as fast as doing that math sheet. But then if he gets a 50%, then we're gonna have to work on it to where he has to work on these 100 problems and be able to finish that sheet. And what happens now? He finishes the sheet. Instead of just accepting that, no, he's not quite as fast, he now does it. So it's a matter of you setting a bar, they can get there, and too often when the expectations are set that this child has a problem, he can't do it because of this or this background or this excuse, it was like what you're saying, then that's the level they will perform at. And as with some of these books that from Hirsch, if you keep on allowing mediocrity, that it becomes a self-reinforcing event, because then you do fall behind, and then you are dumb relative to the other students in the class because you don't know how to do the basic stuff. So every time people are taking steps forward, you can't step forward because you don't know what the last step was. So setting those standards, and as I said, I've seen it through my own son. He ends up doing better, and now he doesn't get demerits. No, he's not perfect. He's not getting perfect grades, but he's definitely moving, doing everything the right way and much better because the bar was not lowered
For
just
him, yeah.
for him.
Mhm.
I agree with everything you said, and I want to add to that too, that I think this is very true of the vast majority of our students anyway, that they are here because they love learning, and they're here and have been instilled with the love of learning. That is very rare. And I know that Oscar sometimes will mess up on a test, and instead of saying, oh gosh, I didn't do well on that test, and then to say, well, how can I improve my grade? He comes back and he wants to look at the material again, because we've talked so many times about it not being about the grade. It's about learning being continual, and learning being, ongoing, and it doesn't matter as much about the grade, that's a tool that you use to kind of see if you've mastered the material, to see if you are on track. But the real benefit is the education and the love of learning and wanting more knowledge. And so after that test, he wanted to go back and learn it again. I said, oh, but you've already had the test. And I said that to him, and he said, yeah, but I want to know.
Right.
And I was like, yes, awesome, that's fantastic. So, anyway. Okay.
Anyone, thank you, that's great. Anyone else have anything?
I just have one comment, and it's funny how the way the comments have gone today, because I feel it does relate to it, and I thought it wasn't gonna relate to the comments, but I heard an interview this morning with, former Naples High football coach, Kramer, and he was asked, and one thing that struck out at me is, he said, look, I wasn't in this for the wins and losses, I wasn't in this for the championships. He's like, I was in this because I wanted my young men to develop into successful husbands and fathers, through, virtue and, all the things that we talk about here. And then he was asked at the end, he's like, what's the worst thing that has happened to your high school football players over the last 22 years? And he's like, wow, that's a great question. And he thought about it, and then he goes, it's this. He goes, if let's say someone went up to every one of your high school students 15 years ago and said, we're gonna give you a drug and you're just gonna stare at it all day. And he's like, the phones and bringing in these phones into our schools has by far been the worst thing that's happened to my athletes, my students. He said it hinders communication, it hinders the ability to relate to each other, it hinders learning. So I just wanted to pass along that, we got someone that was incredibly successful. His whole goal was about, shaping children to become successful adults. And one of the things that he says is probably the worst thing to happen to these high schoolers is, these constant access to phones all day. And I think he would say, if he took a look at Mason, that we're doing it the right way.
I just have to make one point, because you just hit on something indirectly that is so much on point, without even realizing it, is that when I went to Naples High in 3 years, I went there all 4 years, but I remember 3 years in a row, we ended up going 1-29, like an 0-10, 1-9, 0-10. So that's not to say that we had the best athletes. Obviously we didn't, okay? But what happens with the proper teaching and these are the same, pulling from the same school districts and pulling from the same area as students. How can you teach them one way and we're 1-29. You teach them another way and we're going to the state championship year after year. Once again, that doesn't happen by accident. How come every year we stunk and then every year when he's there we're good? Because it's a different way of doing things, and it doesn't happen by accident. It happens through hard work, and if people work and put in the hard work, that's determinant whether you're going to succeed or fail, and not at football, not at school, but in life. And setting that right goal. So I think the fact you mentioned that, and I dealt with it personally when I went to that school, and that's same students, 2 different results when you have a different person teaching you at the top.
And I think too that being a not-for-profit corporation that runs a school as opposed to a for-profit corporation that runs a school.
It's not about the
manages
money.
the school. I think that changes the game completely. And I think that's another thing our community needs to be very aware of.
Is there anything else?
I don't know if I wanted to ramble on.
Okay.
I love it when you ramble.
All right, well, I was gonna bring up one item, because I do feel it's very important. I went back and I looked at the, what I'll call it, the July 11th districts and, the Terminate Mason Classical Academy meeting. And board member Eric Carter, his comment on essentially why we were there and why we, threatened every student and parent with termination. He started off his board comments by going, our job as a board is to have a responsibility for the finances of every penny that comes into this district, even those monies that flow into charter schools. And then he went on to say, in June of 2017, and I'll point out that he was inaccurate with that date, Mason took out a loan at a higher interest rate that they have in the past, and that was concerning to a lot of people. And then in July of 2016, so he meant to say June of 2016, took out a loan of higher interest rate than in the past. What he was alluding to was back in May of 2016, two board members to my left and right will remember because they were there.
How could I forget?
Yeah, there's a written, Matt Mathias he was making a demand to retract his existing loan to the school, and you guys were having a meeting to talk about getting alternative financing from this kind of hostile loan, and you kind of wanted to get away from it. And by doing so, you need to raise money quickly, and it was going to be taken out at an interest rate of 14%. So the Naples Daily News did an article about that whole meeting a year later. And then there were a few questions posed from reporter Annika Hammerschlag to our attorney Sean Arnold before it went to press, and one of them was, did Matt Mathias offer orally or written any other way a MCA a loan at 9%? And Sean Arnold's answer was, Mathias had private conversations with two board members about retracting his improper demand for a repayment of a loan if Kelly would resign. Kelly Lichter would resign. MCA cannot confirm that the rate was 9%. Then there was another question. Why did Kelly reject the offer, especially considering it was at a far lower interest rate than the other loan offered at 14%? And so Mr. Arnold had a lengthy response, and as part of the response, he said, quote, moreover, an offer for the lending of money that will be paid back over a period of more than 1 year must be in writing, otherwise it violates Florida law. So I was like, wait a minute, Mathias worked with two board members, one of them the vice chair at the time, Byron Donalds, and said that they want to provide this other loan only if the chair will step down, and that because it's going to be paid back in over a year, and it wasn't in writing, it was a illegal loan. So I asked recently the Arnold Law Firm can they cite the law that is violated, and they sent it to me. It's chapter 725 on unenforceable contracts. It's title 15, it looks like, statute of frauds. And in it says, no action shall be brought whereby to charge any executor or administrator upon any agreement that is not to be performed within the space of 1 year, unless the agreement shall be in writing and signed. So that never the case. So we actually had our own attorneys said that, yeah, it was a legal loan that violated Florida law, that was, I think, also, a form of extortion. Was saying, or bribery, saying, yeah, the only way you can accept this loan is if the board chair steps down. So I feel very strongly that because Matt Mathias is a financial rep and a registered financial advisor, and that the other person that he conspired with to provide this illegal loan or present this illegal loan was Byron Donalds. He's also another registered financial advisor. I feel very strongly that the board should make the Florida Department of Financial Services aware of this, and we should file a complaint.
Legally, I think the much larger issue is the fact that they're asking you to step down as a condition of the loan. I don't know if it technically, I'm not exactly sure what the legal points of bribery are. That if we are to focus on something going forward, I don't think the statute of frauds is the larger point there.
Right, I don't think we should be
I think
focusing
the statute
on.
of frauds really goes to the enforceability of the contract. I don't know if that really is as much, but I think the fact that you're asking somebody to step down, to me sounds like a bribe or at least extortion. And once again, it goes to the people who have money that don't. Okay, so now you're just telling me for 5% interest we can buy you off, and then all of a sudden we get control of your school. I mean, that's disgusting if you really think about that. So the fact that people would even put forth that that's what she should have done is ridiculous. And to be honest, that was a large motivation of me requesting to see if I could become a part of this board, because that's terrible. Okay, basically, you're trying to, the whole thing, it doesn't even make sense, and the fact that people would even go on board with that and say that you should have stepped down, I think is crazy. Because, like I said, whether, I don't know the exact legal elements, but that to me sounds like a bribe. Basically, you step down and we'll give you some money. We'll give you X number of dollars, whatever the difference in interest rate is. All right, and then will you give up control of the school? No, I mean, and I think, and then for the paper to paint it as if you did something wrong there, instead of painting it as they're trying to buy people off to get off the board. I mean, if somebody said that to anybody else at the school board or anybody else, I guarantee you it would have been completely viewed the opposite way.
Of course.
Right.
And so.
And I think, along those lines, I think filing a complaint with the Florida Department of Financial Services and have them investigate it.
Mhm.
And was there something,
Let
was
them
there a problem
determine
with what happened then, or not?
Is there any kind of statute of limitations on it or no?
Now, I've been told that, yeah, it's past the statute of limitations on any type of legal action.
Okay.
But,
But as
they're
far as reporting it,
reporting it, there's no,
okay.
time limit on reporting, something that I guess the body that, licenses, financial advisors, there's no, time limit on that.
Okay. And it's probably something that should have been done before, but I'm glad you brought this up, especially in light of Carter's recent comments.
Mm-hmm.
I would be for submitting something on behalf of the board. I don't know if it's something you wanna draft up, or
Sure.
if the other board members would, if there's consensus there. I don't know.
Just trying to think about to what extent they'll do something with it at this point. Whether they're gonna confront similar type of issues, it probably doesn't cost us anything to do that. I think at this point we have a lot of other issues. I mean, even when you go back to that, the fact that you're having this fraudulent attempt to pull the loans back because of whatever reason, I mean, that's not a basis to pull the loans. I think, as Sean Arnold said at that time, is that you can't just withdraw loans just because you so feel like that or you're unhappy. I think that now the question then becomes is that a lender's not necessarily under a fiduciary duty, meaning that they don't have a duty to treat you fairly. It all stinks. It all smells. To what extent is that person actually under the purview of this board? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So I question what the motivations and the behind the scenes was going on with that. But being that is it between board members? Well, if a bank does something, banks do. I mean, I don't know. It's an individual lender, and like I said, they're not necessarily under a fiduciary duty. I think it's terrible, and something's going on there. And I guess what I would really just say is I don't want to shoot a blank either. If it's not going to be something that doesn't necessarily end up becoming something that's a real, especially when you couple it with the time, whether they're going to whether they even say he's even under their purview, because it's an individual offering a loan. Because I said, I think the statute of frauds really goes to the enforceability of the contract rather than it being illegal. Like any lease over a year has to have 2 witnesses, has to be in writing. Certain things, a real contract for land has to be in writing. It's not illegal if it's not, it's just not enforceable if it's not. So I remember hearing that, and when I heard that, that it was illegal, I didn't realize what law. I thought maybe there's some other law, but if you're saying it's a statute of frauds, I would, I want to make sure, I'm sure whatever happens, I don't want it to be spun the other way against us, is my only thought there.
Wasn't there another part of that communication with Mr. Arnold in response to the questioning about the reason that Mr. Mathias had to step down in a conflict of interest, whether he was making money or not?
Can't be in the board and be a well, the conflict of interest, and if you are on the board and then you're lending the school money, your fiduciary is the
Your
board,
assigns
right?
are,
Yep.
yeah, profiting and they're.
Now, that part of it could raise a whole nother level of questions, because I believe he resigned and there were already loans in place, so was that a violation in of itself? Did he play a part in getting these loans at, like, you know, from, and that in of itself could be a whole nother question.
That's what it looks like.
But I guess with his latest involvement with the school, I just feel like it's kind of important to bring this to light,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and that's not the job of the, you know, making a complaint to the Department of Financial Services is, they're not gonna weigh in on, you know, whether they think the statute of frauds or, you know, extortion or this and that. They're just gonna look at it and, should a registered investment advisor be doing this? That's what they're
That's
gonna
what
say,
needs to be drawn out.
you know,
Is he a registered investment advisor?
yeah, he must be.
That's what he
Well, I think I saw something that said he's a trustee of a trust, and anybody can be a trustee of a trust, so like if
No,
you.
he's got a
Okay.
business where that's what he does. He does
Okay,
people's-
well, that's that brings in a whole nother area of laws that I'm not, you know, very familiar with at all, so.
And it is, I thought there was some language in there where I thought I
Yeah.
read that Mr. Mathias said, well, couldn't we kind of try to couch it this way and get around that? Couldn't we sort of paint it a different way and, you know, make people think that I'm not profiting from this? Or so, I forget what the language was.
This was one response. It said, previously Mathias demanded repayment of the loan. MCA's attorney reviewed the loan between MCA and Mathias and found no provision for the loans to be recalled unless the payments were not being made or other conditions which did not occur. The attorney advised Mr. Mathias of this fact, and he withdrew his demand letter. Mathias then tried another approach, offering money at a lower interest rate if Lichter resigned. The board did not want to do business with Mr. Mathias due to his improper demand for repayment and the fact that he resigned from the board due to his previous conflicts of interest. Mr. Mathias had a duty of trust to his clients as well as the school. Knowing this to be a conflict, Mr. Mathias brokered deals with the school and his clients nevertheless.
And this is the other language from prior to his resignation. He wrote Sean and said, I was wondering if there could potentially be another solution to our conflict. It is possible, given our system and technology, I can carve out the promissory note from the listing of assets upon which my fee is determined. In essence, this would mean the trust would still own the asset and I would still have the trustee responsibility, but I would not be receiving any compensation. This is likely stretching it a bit, just to consider all options.
Likely stretching.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
So purposes of clarification, this is and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt Mathias is the same person that applied for the Naples Classical Charter School.
Yes.
Phoenix, he owns Phoenix Education Network.
He's the chair of the board of Phoenix Education Network, and Naples Classical Academy is the fictitious name owned by the Phoenix Education Network.
Perhaps we should inform Mr. Board Member Carter, who is our board member of this, because I think he would be greatly concerned about every penny that would be
He's stated.
for profit. This is a
Mhm.
for-profit company that would be benefiting from a new school in our county.
Mhm.
I think there should be a reasonable suspicion as to his motives, and it should be put in the sunshine to Mr. Board Member Carter and the Chairman Terry.
Mhm.
They should be
Oh,
greatly concerned.
Lucarelli's the new chair.
Oh, excuse me. Chair Lucarelli. Each board member should be made aware, or they could potentially be seen as allowing it to happen.
That's a good idea. Perhaps you would be willing to
Sure.
just fire off an email to them?
Yeah, I'll draft an email. I'll run it by Rock Law Firm, and then
In light of those comments.
in light of the comments,
That's-
exactly.
Yeah. That's important. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so I have just, one note is uniforms, if we can just tighten that up.
Yes.
So, yeah, I see it at Carline, like, you know, and I know it's a tough thing, you know, we've got so many other things going on. I went to a boarding school, and every morning when we'd have to go into breakfast, and they'd have the dorm mom sitting there, and they'd check your uniform, and it was every single day. And so I don't know if it could be just made part of the attendance first thing in the morning, just, you know, I see a lot of non-Lands End stuff, the shoes are an issue,
Skirts.
Just length of the skirts.
yes.
Is
Yeah,
it-
daughter complains about that a lot.
Yeah,
And,
big
and,
time.
and the guys do too, you know, it's not a policy, but it's distracting, it's
Yeah.
distracting for everyone. But, the rule about that, I don't know if you've looked into that, since you come on, but the rule about the length of the skirts is that when you're standing straight and you have your fingers straight at your sides, that the distance between the tip of your finger and the top of your kneecap, halfway between is the highest the skirt or skirt can be. So it's a quick visual, you can
Picture.
see easily, you know, when somebody's walking down the hall, you can see, you know, and, you know, discreetly pull them aside and say, you know, we need to follow the uniform code, so. Yeah, but there, when I was, there at the, Veterans Day Assembly, I saw a lot of jeans and pants, you know, that are kind of in the color family, but they're certainly not uniform.
Mhm.
And, you know, we as a school decided to have a uniform, not a dress code. And so, you know, I think it's a slippery slope if we start to just let that go.
Yeah, so I that would just be my recommendation, is to tighten that up. The other thing I wanna point out, I don't know if everyone saw the press coverage, we've been working with the PR team, I think that's helpful. The Fox 4, it's now on their website, so I think that was good coverage. NBC2 had something, not a video, but an article, so that was, I think, you know, positive. The other thing I wanted to point out, regarding the August 14th letter from Fox and Fishbane, actually it came from Fox, but Fishbane. They referenced, a parent meeting that I participated in, if you guys recall that letter. I did a records request, and I was recorded, illegally recorded in that, private parent. I was invited to participate as a parent, and this wasn't in my official capacity as a board member, it was a very just informal conversation. Just wanna make it clear, I was invited by a parent to participate.
An attorney just advised me this morning that in the state of Florida, that all parties have to be notified, or else the recording is illegal.
Yeah, so in Florida, it's a very strict law.
And it can't be video and recording at the same time.
Yeah, so they recorded the conversation. I do have the actual records request of the recording that was done, that was sent to Fox and Fishbane, and then those attorneys use that against us in the school in that August 14th letter. So I just,
When you say use against, they accuse us of breaching the settlement agreement with
correct,
that.
yes,
The
so
illegal recording.
the illegal
Yes.
recording, so they're using an illegal recording, which, Mr. Whitehead informed me that he was told by one of the deputies, that's actually a felony.
Do we know who the recording came from?
According to the records request, it was sent by Matt Mathias, interestingly enough. So
And I will note when he, when it was sent, when I saw the public record, when it's sent, he put in quotation marks, undermine.
yes,
And in the letter from Fox and Fishbane, they actually had the word undermine in quotation marks.
yeah. So they were actually, so in essence, illegal recording they're using against us in the school. I mean, you would think the attorneys would know better than to do something like that, but I'm gonna be working with Mr. Whitehead and, the law, enforcement and officials and look into this matter, because I did not consent, nobody disclosed that they were recording me. And what I said was not anything inappropriate, I just wanna be clear. There was a question asked, and I expressed that yes, it is frustrating, because the parent was expressing frustrations about the parents who were undermining the school. And I said, yeah, it is very frustrating that the parents continue to undermine our school and still send their kids here. That is not derogatory, it's actually stating a fact. It is unfortunate that this continues. I mean, what is the purpose? Aren't we all here, and we've had a great dialogue today, but it is about the kids. And if there are concerns and wanting to improve and make the school better, there's a way to go about doing that. It's not, let me destroy you all and to get my way or to get it the way I want it.
Or even pass legislation to make sure that there is an unconstitutional blacklist created to make sure that anyone part of a charter school that has failed will never be able to practice in the educational field again. I think that's another interesting aspect of this entire dialogue.
Absolutely. I don't know if anyone else is aware of legislation that's being proposed for charter schools. Yeah, so it's just interesting. Manny Diaz, who's a big school choice guy, is proposing basically a blacklist of, and it kind of looks like we're one of the reasons why this bill is being put into place. So if you're part of a school that's terminated, it's not just board members, staff members, even extends to their family members cannot be involved with any charter schools or starting any schools or any of that. I just thought that was kind of interesting. That
So
So
a
we're-
blacklist created against people to interrupt their livelihood when no crime has been committed.
right, and that's the other interesting thing is you're put on the list even if there isn't any due process, but if it's found later that you didn't actually do anything wrong, they'll remove you from the list.
Oh, good.
It's very American. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there that this to me is a major problem that this was being used against us. So I don't know if anyone has anything to comment on that, but
Wasn't there a constitutional amendment that was going to protect the independence of charter schools that ended up getting rejected by the court before it got to go to a vote last time? And I found the thing interesting about that is that they said it was because there was multiple issues under one under one amendment, so they shut it down, and then they left on there 3 or 4 other potential amendments that had a whole string of issues within it, but then there was like one, and it didn't even look like that one was as much as the other ones was, but it's very interesting that gets taken off so that the people don't get to vote on the independence of charter. And now you get all this bad news going around to where at this point it'd probably be very hard to pass something like that because people are being told that charter schools are bad. It's kind of interesting how some of these things happen at even higher levels.
So I'm gonna pose a very rhetorical question, because I'm a bit confused. Is charter school a school of choice? So it's a choice.
yes.
So if I like the school, I like how we teach, and I like what it stands for, I choose to go there. If I don't like what it stands for, I don't like management, I leave. It's the same thing with a job, same thing when you buy a car,
You can even start your own school. if you want.
same with a house. This is what's perplexing me, is that I do not understand how a parent can say they're a parent and I've chosen to go to this school and I'm unhappy with it. If I'm unhappy with it, it's because there's issues with my child, learning or, academics or behavior and stuff. So I have a choice to go somewhere else. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. No. Speaking of education though, seeing the comments and hearing the commentary from the people that are trying to take us down, I have received quite an education on vile language and attacking verbiage, terms that I have never heard in my over 50 years of life, that I can't believe these people are saying that they, out of the virtue in their heart, are trying to do something good for children, and that language is coming out. It's pretty shocking.
They're very tolerant as long as you agree with them 100%.
And I personally, and I'm the newest member of the board, so far I've been called a criminal because I've decided to volunteer to be on the board.
Wow.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I mean,
Me too. I think I was
have
confident
they-
of that anyway. Yeah.
threatened you to move out of town yet? And they'll ruin your spouse's lives too, and, cause we got that. I do want the meeting minutes to reflect something else, Mrs. Smith, last board meeting, Mr. Bolduc brought up the website, the hostile takeover of MCA.com, that was sent by a parent. And this parent had informed the board that he had seen it and thought it should be shared and we should share it, and we kinda discussed that. Mr. Wilkham said we should probably run it by the attorney. I did have a conversation at length with the attorney about it, and because it was not created by the school, it's not a school website, that he would just prefer that we don't send it out on behalf of the school. So I understand that, and so I just wanted to make that clear for the meeting minutes, that that specific website cannot be released by the school through our email system. So that's it. Okay?
I just wanted to clarify, so I'm gonna approach the Rock Law Firm about the letter, drafting it to Carter County Schools and the board and all that. Did you want me to approach the Rock Law Firm about the potential filing the complaint and see what their thoughts are?
If you can mention it, I will as well, but I think we should just, I'm having to leave out of town here, I have to go back to the office and get some things done still, so I'm gonna definitely call them as soon as I get back, but I think it'll help to have both of us speak to them and reiterate the urgency and the desire for us to move this
No, I
forward.
met with the Florida Department of Financial Services.
Oh.
Talk to them about that.
Oh, yeah, you can, I have no problem with you mentioning that.
Rest of the board fine with that?
Mhm.
Okay,
You may wanna even include the recording
sure.
Mhm.
as another behavioral piece to the person.
And another breach of law.
And that the district council is using it, so.
Mhm.
And I think that's also something else that should be brought up in the declaratory action.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
All right, we covered a lot today, great meeting, so this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.